Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Emily Gorka Hanlon, and Matthew Shapiro Obermeyer. And Matthew, could you please give us a rundown on who we have on the air with us today, please?
Sure can. We're going to start off with Marianne Murtha, the Greater Philadelphia Area Director of the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. We'll have Christi Seidel, President and CEO of Surrey Services for Seniors. And we'll move on with Dave Monahan, the CEO of Kleer. And finally, we'll have Terese Brittingham, broker and owner, Keller Williams Realty Group.
Well, let's get to know our first guest, Marianne Murtha, Greater Philadelphia Area Director, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Marianne, what is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention? What are you guys doing?
We're a national organization dedicated to mental health research as well as suicide prevention and taking care of those lost to suicide, survivors of suicide.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is this organization?
It's a national organization with 73 chapters in all 50 states.
Where you're from originally, and how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm originally from Yeadon, Pennsylvania, which is Delaware County. I am the oldest of four.
Mm-hmm. Which is a suburb of Philadelphia. And how young were you when you started making money, and what were you doing?
I was 12 years old, and I was babysitting.
Uh-huh. What'd you do different than all the other babysitters?
The kids and the babies became part of my world, so no matter where I was or what I was doing, I always tried to bring them along, or even if I wasn't babysitting, I'd stop in to check on those kids.
Mm-hmm. Why would you do that? Why would you go out of your way to do that kind of stuff?
I loved being with the babies and the little kids, and it was fun, and it was just something it spoke to my heart.
Spoke to you, so you're full of empathy, and you really go out of your way, don't you?
I certainly hope I try to.
Uh-huh. Matthew?
Yeah, Marianne, so besides the babysitting, you're the oldest of four. Tell me about that.
I am. So the first three of us are really close, 18 months apart, but then we have one that came much later, my youngest brother. And it was really my responsibility to make sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do and not getting into trouble. And so that was a job and a half sometimes, especially with my brother.
Why was that your responsibility?
I was the oldest, and it was kind of just my responsibility, and it's what I was supposed to do.
So tell me a little bit about your parents. Tell me about Dad first.
My dad was a hard worker, blue collar, always had more than one job to make sure that his family received all that he needed. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but took care of the house, took care of all of us, and was just an overall nurturer.
And at some point, I think you told us she stopped being a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yes. Once my youngest brother went off to college, she created a daycare center where she was taking care of all the babies and the kids in the neighborhood.
I'm curious, are you more like your mom or more like your dad?
A little bit of both.
Tell me what you mean.
I can be stubborn like my dad. I also have the same work ethic as him. If you're 15 minutes early, you are very late. And my mom was more of a nurturer. She was there to kind of hug us and tell us everything's going to be okay and give us really safe advice.
And you said earlier that your mom was the one who would talk you off the ledge. Tell me what you meant by that.
Well, sometimes I can be stubborn, so she would kind of put her arms around me, and especially around people and relationships when I got stuck in my own head. I would make sure that I understood that everybody makes mistakes, including me, and to always extend the olive branch. To always extend the olive branch? Tell me a little bit what that means. If I got into an argument with a friend or a family member or one of my brothers and sisters, she always put the responsibility on me to always. Didn't your
mom talk to you? Didn't you tell us that nowadays when thoughts go through your head, sometimes your mom talks to you? What was that all about?
If I'm really having a struggle with a major decision in my life, my mom passed. So I will go quietly in a room and just have a conversation with her. And most times I can hear her voice in my head telling me what to do.
Shannon?
Marianne, first of all, thank you for what you're doing. I think we all know somebody who has struggled or is struggling with mental health. And I'm curious, what was your drive to this foundation?
I have been a volunteer since 2012, became the area director in January of 2020. And the reason why was because in 2010, I lost my 20-year-old son.
Tell us more about that. What do you mean?
My son, Dominic, started to struggle with mental health issues probably around 15, 16. We took him to psychiatrists, group therapy, whatever programs were available. Around age 18, he started to follow all the strategies that he needed to, different places, things, people. But for some reason, there were no signs. And so on October 17th, 2010, I got the call.
And what's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
I never want anyone, any parent, any sibling, any grandparent, anyone that loves someone to get that call. So it's my mission. It's what drives me every day to make sure that I'm raising awareness and education on what the signs are, what resources are, and how you can help somebody.
Emily?
And Marianne, thank you for sharing. How do you go about sharing your son's story today and what you do?
American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has 39 programs that we can offer that are educational. So we are constantly contacting school districts, religious organizations, businesses to offer these tools, which we offer for free, so we can have sessions where anyone can learn what the signs are, what to say, and how to get the resources.
Marianne, do you find that by sharing your experience, you're actually healing your own grief?
That was the unintended consequence. I went to American Foundation in 12 to find a way to figure out how I get through this. And then as I started to tell my story and started to become part of the organization, I realized that I'm helping others, and that's helping me on my journey. And there is hope.
Didn't you mention that the organization is about 1 million volunteers or something, some number like that?
Yes. We are a volunteer-based organization. And throughout the country, we have 1 million people that do our grassroots work every day. So there's 1 million volunteers.
If I was doing a good interview, what are we missing? What else don't we know about you or the organization?
There's 4 pillars, founding pillars of our organization: research, education, advocacy, and loss and healing. We've been around since 1987, which at that point, you didn't even, if you said the words, you whispered it. And it was founded by researchers that wanted to understand the intelligence. And then it was founded by families that were suicide survivors. And back then it was isolating and you were ostracized. And that group wanted to break the stigma. So together, the two of them is what I call where EQ and IQ came together, and it was the Big Bang Theory to create what we are today.
So this is really a passion for you. This is a mission. This is not just a job. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If I can help one family or one person, then I know that I did my mission, and I honored my son, Dominic. My bet is that you've helped many more than one family or one parent, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I tend to get the calls all the time from friends, relatives, business associates.
And you're really looking to help the public understand how to avoid, what are the signs to how to avoid a problem, aren't you?
Yes. So there are warning signs. There is the right way. There's language that you do say versus you don't say. And then what are the resources? So the 1-800-273-TALK is the national hotline. Or you can text TALK to 741-741, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Let me have that website address and that contact information one more time, please.
So for the national hotline, National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-TALK. Wait, yes, sorry, got distracted. Or text, if you're someone that doesn't want to have that conversation, you can text talk, 741-741.
And how about the website address?
American Foundation is AFSP.org. Philadelphia is our chapter.
We've been speaking with Marianne Murtha, Greater Philadelphia Area Director, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we will be back in a moment. Right after this quick break, don't go away. We'll be right back.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Christi Seidel, President and CEO of Surrey Services for Seniors. Christi, what is Surrey Services for Seniors?
Surrey is a nonprofit whose mission is really to inspire and enable older adults to live with independence and dignity and be active members of the community. We have senior centers, we have home care services, transportation, meal programs, and things like that just to support older adults.
How large or how small is the organization?
We've been around for 40 years. We serve close to 5,000 people each year.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from Wayne, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia.
How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I have 2 younger brothers.
And tell me a little bit about how young were you when you started making money?
I was probably 10 years old. I was babysitting and mucking stalls.
You were babysitting. What'd you do different than all the other babysitters?
I was very interested in art. I still am. And I was a very creative babysitter, always looking for things for the kids to do that would entertain them, trying to figure out what would make them happy.
You told us earlier in the green room that you wanted to be the favorite babysitter. Why?
I did want to be the favorite babysitter because, it was just another way I really needed to earn the money to support my horse.
So what's this wanting to be the favorite babysitter? How's that helping the build of Surrey Services for Seniors?
One of the things that it taught me was really in terms of, finding what is meaningful to each person and meeting them where they are.
Finding what's meaningful to each person and meeting them where they are. What are you talking about?
So, it's just like when I was working with the kids, when I was babysitting, it was really finding out what they wanted to do, not necessarily what I wanted to do or thought that they should do, what they wanted to do. And, it's the same thing working with the seniors that we work with today. It's really about meeting them where they are, finding out what they need and what they want to do.
Just wanted to make sure I understood. Matthew?
Yeah, so you said you spent some time mucking stalls. Is that as glamorous as it sounds? I don't know a lot about horses.
So I spend a lot of time mucking stalls, and it's probably one of the least glamorous things around, but, it was what I needed to do if I wanted to have a horse.
I don't get that. You were a babysitter. You could do creative things and all of that. So why did you have to muck the stalls? And what does that show us about you?
I think it shows a determination, certainly. In order to have a horse, I needed to find a way to pay for it, to keep its board. So I, in essence, became the stable hand. I mucked out not only my horse's stalls, but all of the stalls.
Oh, my gosh. So you kind of have this do whatever it takes kind of thing to you. Give me some other examples of that when you were a kid.
I absolutely have a do whatever it takes attitude. I do now. When I was a kid, it was whatever I wanted to do. If I wanted to join the swim team, I had to figure out a way to get myself there. I would walk down the street. And when I say down the street, it was probably 1.5 miles away every morning. So.
And what are those experiences in doing what you have to do to accomplish things? What does that have to do with how you run Surrey today?
I think it's very key to everything that I do. That when I'm working with Surrey, we have a lot of things that we do. We need to raise a lot of money. We've got to do whatever it takes. We've got to come up with creative solutions to help our members. We've got to again just do whatever it takes.
Shannon?
Christi, I'm curious. Tell us a little bit about your mom and what she was like when you were growing up.
So my mom was wonderful. She was a perpetual volunteer, and both she and my father really instilled that in my brothers and I.
How did they instill that in you?
I'm sorry?
How did they instill that in you?
From a very young age, we went with them when they volunteered. We did whatever it was that we needed to do, and it was just second nature for us.
And what's one early memory that you have of volunteering with your parents?
So the first memory I have of volunteering with my mom in particular was selling lemon sticks at the local country fair to raise money for the local hospital.
And what did volunteering at a young age with your parents, what did that teach you that you carry with you today?
That it's critical to give back to your community, whatever it is, whether it's your time, your talents, or if you have the ability financially. But it's very important to give back to the community in any way that you can.
And Christi, can you tell us a little bit more about your dad and what he was like?
So both my dad and my grandfather were entrepreneurs. My dad was very driven to be successful. He started his own company when I was in high school.
And what did your dad teach you that you bring with you into work every day?
My dad taught me through watching him and watching his interactions with his team, really just how important that team is. He used to say all the time that it's not him that made the company that he started successful. It was the team that he built around him.
Yeah, what's that have to do with this organization known as Surrey Services for Seniors?
You know, like any nonprofit, we do not have a very large staff, and I think it's really important to bring the team along to provide them with the skills that they need to continue to grow and to develop.
Emily, what are you thinking?
What does that look like specifically in terms of your leadership?
So it's very important to me for each of the team members to really develop goals and personal goals, not just goals in terms of growing the business or whatever it might be, but personal goals and how they want to see themselves, where they see themselves in a year or two, how we can help them get there.
And why is that important to you?
Because it builds a strong team, and the stronger our team, the stronger our organization.
Matthew?
So, Christi, I'm curious, how young were you when you had a meaningful relationship with a senior or an older adult?
So, I think part of my passion with working with older adults comes from my grandparents. I was very, very fortunate to have extremely close relationships with them, especially one of my grandparents. And
which one?
My dad's mom.
And tell me about that relationship.
She was wonderful. She used to take me out and we'd go to lunch, and I spent a lot of time with her and her friends. We called it, her name was Mary, and she had 3 friends named Betty. So it was Mary and the Bettys. And I got to spend a lot of time with them, and it was very meaningful. At the time, I probably didn't realize how much it impacted me, but it was very meaningful.
How did it impact you? What was so meaningful?
It was amazing to watch, especially this group of women. They were strong, they were resilient, but, they started to, as they started to age, you could see those changes. And, I realized, especially as my grandmother got towards the end, the lack of resources that people had to help them was really just so staggeringly clear to me.
So is it fair to say that you're taking care of your grandmother today, every day?
I am.
Tell me more about that.
My grandmother and all of her friends.
And how does that make you feel?
I go home every day feeling wonderful about what we do here.
Tell me more about that.
So every day, I can't tell you, we have people that come in here or that come through for our grab and go lunches now that, we've been shut down a little bit because of COVID. But the appreciation and the fact that we are able to help these people is truly just amazing.
How are you able to help them?
In every completely way possible. We have people that we had one woman who was very food insecure. She wouldn't tell us that she was, but we knew she was. So we pretended we had this raffle, And we raffled off all these baskets of goodies and food and things like that. It's really, to see the difference that you make in somebody's life every day is amazing.
And this fills you? This you find this meaningful?
I do.
Do you get to visit with your seniors? How often do you do that?
I do. I get to, I obviously it's 5,000 people that we help. So it's not just me, it's this entire team. But that personal connection with people is really what keeps it real for me. And it keeps us really understanding what's going on with people and what they need to do and what we need to do as an organization moving forward.
How long have you been with Surrey?
So I actually started with Surrey as a volunteer 25 years ago. I talked about that importance of volunteering to my family. My dad was a volunteer here. When my daughter was born, I couldn't go back to work full time because she was extremely ill. And so take that time off that I took, I came here. My dad's like, just come to Surrey. So it was 25 years ago. I've been on staff now for 10 years.
25 years ago, you started off as a volunteer, and now you're the president and CEO. So you know what it's like to do all the different jobs at Surrey, don't you?
I surely do. I started as a volunteer grocery shopper.
And I guess from your father, you learned how important the team is. So because you know what all the jobs are about, you really do appreciate the people, all the different people in the organization, including the volunteers. What's the website address for Surrey Services?
It's surreyservices.org, SURREYSERVICES.org.
We've been speaking with Christi Seidel, President and CEO of Surrey Services for Seniors. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Dave Monahan, CEO of Kleer. David, what is Kleer? What are you guys doing?
Kleer is a platform. It enables dentists to offer subscription-based care to patients, and it eliminates all the hassle of insurance. It's lower cost to patients, and it's more revenue for dentists.
Mm-hmm. How old's the organization? And give me some statistics about it.
We're almost 3 years old. We have about 30 people in the company and about 5,000 dentists on the platform.
Where you're from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
So I'm from Hatboro, Pennsylvania, which is outside Philadelphia, and I am the youngest of 4 boys.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, where do you want to go with him?
So tell me what you were doing, 8 to 14. Let's start with that.
8 to 14, I was getting beat up pretty much. So we used to play a lot of sports in the backyard. And since I was the youngest of the 4, I typically got run over.
Well, why'd your brothers let you play with them? Why didn't they tell you to go play with kids your size?
I think they like winning. I think that was, we were very close. Me and my brothers are all very close. We did everything together. We still do a lot of things together.
So did you enjoy being the little kid out there in the backyard? Did you enjoy being the one who got run over?
I don't think I enjoyed it at the time, but it taught me a lot of things about resilience and being tough.
What did it teach you? Tell me more about that.
So I constantly had to go back out, even though, the day before maybe I got run over, I had to go back out and try to figure out, could I get better? And it was one of those things where I think it just made made me tougher and stronger and more resilient as a result.
Did you ever think about not going back out there the next day?
Yeah, I probably did, to be honest. Some days I didn't go back out. But I think probably 80 or 90% of the time I'd go back out and fight.
And what is that experience of being the little kid out there in the backyard, getting run over, sometimes wanting to stay in, but always going back? What does that have to do with who you are today and how you run your business?
It's I don't think about obstacles as being a problem. We just, as a company with Kleer and anything I've done in the past is we run into something, we figure it out. We don't run away from it. We go after it.
Mm-hmm. Shannon.
Dave, in the green room, you mentioned that you started working at 12 years old. Tell us more about that and what you were doing.
Yeah, so I worked at a local grocery store. It was called the Quick Shop.
And what were you hired to do?
I was hired to stock shelves.
Hired to stock shelves. And in the green room, you mentioned that you ended up running the deli. Tell us how you went from stocking shelves to running the deli.
So my background is just, working hard and taking responsibility. They saw that. So, when they brought me in there, I was sort of pretty independent and getting things done. And they actually like to take Saturday afternoons off. So they would end up leaving the shop and allow me to run the deli.
And what did that experience teach you that you carry with you today?
Just taking responsibility. So you never knew who was going to walk in to the store and what they were going to ask for, or what might happen on the back end where something could go wrong. So just dealing with all that stuff at a young age, I think, was really, sort of developed me.
So you really appreciated that they allowed you to run the deli, quote unquote. Didn't that frighten you as a young kid?
It did. I don't know if it frightened me, actually. I think just coming up the way I did and sort of with my parents sort of, really instilling hard work and taking on responsibility and things like that, it was sort of a natural thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Emily?
Dave, you said your parents instilled hard work. Let's talk a little bit about your dad. Tell us a little about him.
So, he grew up in Center City, Philadelphia, went to Roman Catholic high school, first in his family to go to college, and then he became a partner at a law firm.
The first in his family to go to college. What kind of impact did that have on you growing up?
He really instilled in us the need for education and higher education. So he made it known that we were all going to go to college, and that wasn't a question.
Tell us about your mom.
My mom was very different than my dad. So my dad grew up in the Center City, Philadelphia. My mom grew up on a farm outside of Pittsburgh, and she was a very adventurous person. So back in the 40s, she was doing things like playing basketball, skiing, and all kinds of different athletic and sporting things. And
is her playing sports that long ago, is that part of like family lore? Tell me what that means in your family.
Yeah, it was was remarkable to us, when we were growing up, that she would do things like that, because back then it just wasn't like a common thing. So she taught us to go do things and try things and be adventurous and not be afraid.
In the green room, you described yourself as a disruptor. How young were you when you were disrupting things?
Fairly young. I basically never took what was being done as the way it always needed to be done. So even in things like in college, taking on and sort of thinking through problems differently. And I would often come to the table like in school and things with different angles. It sometimes wasn't received all that well, but the net was I was always thinking differently, I think, than others.
Am I crazy thinking there's a connection there between you being a disruptor and your mom playing sports back in the 40s?
Yeah, I think she taught us like anything can be done. And again, don't be afraid of sort of what's, common out there. Figure out, what you want and then go do that.
David, where'd the venture capital come from to start this business?
It came from Chase Lenfest in Philadelphia.
Why would Chase Lenfest have invested in you, considering all the deals that he gets approached by?
Yeah, it was sort of, we sort of happenstance. So prior to Kleer, I started the company, built it up, and then sold it. And we have mutual friends who connected us. He happens to own some dental practices in Philadelphia. We had a meeting and just sat down and started talking. He really liked me and asked me to come in and help him. So
what did he ask you to do?
So he had an idea around some software to offer dental services to patients online. He had got something started. And what he asked me to do is to come in and take a look at it and then sort of figure out, is there an opportunity here or not?
So he asked you about starting an online software originating clients business. Who put the twist to the business model?
So that was me. So they were doing, I won't get into what they were doing, but the net was, I looked at it and I thought, yeah, there's opportunity here. So I ended up hiring a market research firm, and we spent about 6 months digging into the market and trying to understand what the need was. And we saw this need for dentists who were struggling with dealing with insurance and the issues around insurance, and then the patients wanting access to care, but it was too difficult and complicated. So we decided to solve that problem.
So the fact that you were a kid and you were resilient, growing up the youngest of 4 boys, especially in the backyard sports, gave you a toughness and a persistence. And then the cleverness you've exhibited through your whole life of looking at things differently, you were able to put a twist to that business model. And as a result, not only do the patients of dentists, but the dentist benefits. So you created a win-win-win because of your personal traits. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it really did come from that. So again, I saw a problem, and then I tried to figure out how to solve it for everyone involved. So this, like you said, the idea was to make it better for dentists and for patients, improve access to care while also making the dentist's business stronger. And that really came from that sort of background of, being resilient, looking at problems as opportunities, and just moving forward and figuring out how you solve a problem.
So this is a situation where private equity, venture capital, and entrepreneurialism, and the client and the business, everybody ends up winning together because of an innovative idea. Am I correct about that? Because there's no losers in this situation.
Yeah, that's exactly the way to put it. So, we look at, how do you create what is sort of a self-reinforcing network of benefits. And so, the benefits on all sides sort of reinforce each other. And, that actually, part of that came from my background where I worked at Microsoft, and we had something similar we'd always think about and try to solve in that way.
Mm-hmm. So how old is this business?
It's almost 3 years old. It's a little over 2.5 years old.
Matthew, did you have a question there?
I was just reminded, you spoke a couple times about your mom and dad being opposites. And so I have this sense when you were growing up, you guys talked about that a lot, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, we did. So one of the jokes always when we were growing up is, because me and my brothers all played sports. We were pretty successful at it. We were like captains of our teams and all that stuff. And people would always ask us, where did that come from? And they'd always assume it was our dad. And we were like, no, that actually comes from our mom. So it was like sometimes things were just turned on their head when people would think about our background and sort of why we do certain things.
That's interesting. So the way that was turned on the head and the way they were opposites, I feel like that has something to do with the way you come at the world and the way you put together things that others aren't seeing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Like, I don't think of things sort of in a straight line. I try to think of things of, I think my expertise is taking a bunch of disconnected dots and connecting them and making something of value.
What's the website address of this organization known as Kleer?
So it's Kleer.com, and it's just spelling wise, it's KLEER.com.
Let me have one more time.
It's Kleer.com, and it's KLEER.com.
You're speaking with Dave Monahan, CEO of Kleer, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Terese Brittingham, owner and broker of Keller Williams Realty Group. What is Keller Williams Realty Group, Terese?
We are a residential and commercial real estate firm that serves Montgomery, Chester, Berks, Bucks, all the surrounding counties.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is this organization, and what's your standing in the real estate community?
We're the number one market share office in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And
about how many brokers? How many
240.
240 agents. Where are you from originally?
I was born in Hawaii and moved to Norristown.
Mm-hmm. How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
There's three of us, and I'm the oldest of girls, all girls.
Oldest of three girls. What was going on with you 8 to 14? What was the primary thing you were up to, or primary things you were up to?
Taking care of my sisters, running the family, swimming.
Taking care of the family, running. It sounds like you were juggling a lot of stuff when you were a kid.
Yes, absolutely.
Does this ability to juggle a bunch of stuff have anything to do with the fact that you're the number one broker in the region?
I think it does. Yes.
Like what? What's this juggling a lot of stuff? What's that have to do? What's the connection there?
I think, I learned early on that caring for people is really important. And it helped me to grow into the real estate company that we have now because we take care of our people. And just nurturing and figuring that out, I think, is really important.
Uh-huh. Shannon, give me a hand.
Terese, so you were always nurturing, you were taking care of your two younger sisters. I'm curious, who did you look up to when you were a kid?
I looked up to my mother. She was a rock star.
Tell us more about her. What was she like?
She was a hard worker. My dad as well, but my mom was an entrepreneur really early on. And a woman in the business starting up her own company was something that was, not really heard of a lot. And I just was so proud of her just to watch what she did and how she taught us that we could do anything we wanted in life.
And what did you learn from your mom that you carry with you today in your work?
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. I can do anything I want to do, but I have to take the reins and I have to run with it and make it happen myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what about your dad? What was he like when you were growing up?
He was a blue collar worker. He worked hard. I mean, my dad, gosh, he did whatever it took to put food on the table and make sure that my mom had the opportunity to do what she needed to do. And he made sure we didn't want for anything.
And what did you learn from him that you carry with you today?
Work ethic. I learned that, you get up early, you're the first one in, you're the last one to leave. You do what is required to make things work the way they need to.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Terese, you mentioned swimming earlier. Can you tell me how young were you when you started swimming?
I was 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah.
Were you on a swim team when you were 4.5?
I was competitively swimming at 4.5, yes.
Oh, I was kidding. Can you even get on a team when you're that young?
No. I actually had to convince the coach that I deserved to be there. I would swim next to the swim team in the lanes outside the swim team, and I would do everything they did until he allowed me on.
How long did that take you for him to allow you on?
It took about 5, maybe 6 months.
So you showed up every day and went along with the team for 5 or 6 months to convince him that you could be the youngest kid on this swimming team?
Yes, I did.
And what was that like, being the youngest kid on this team?
It was, I never thought of myself as the youngest on the team. I felt like I belonged there. So it was fun, just being part of that. And it was funny because people started to look up to me because I guess I convinced the coach to let me on. And then I was helping people learn how to, swim better and work on their strokes. And I became a coach and a mentor myself.
So you did all of that starting off as the youngest kid on the team?
I did.
And did the swimming carry all the way through to like high school?
It did.
Tell me about your high school team. What was your role on that team?
Well, we started the team. I went to Bishop Kenrick and we didn't have a swimming pool. So it was first trying to figure out where the heck were we going to swim and convincing that the school that we needed a swim team. So we had fun doing that. I ended up swimming every single event until we were able to grow the team into more people.
What was your favorite event to swim?
Backstroke.
How come?
You know what? I was really good at it, and it just seemed like it was natural for me. So it was a challenge, and it was one of the harder strokes.
You talked your school into starting a swim team?
I did.
How young were you when you did this?
I guess I was like 14, 13.
Did you do this by yourself, or did you gather some buddies to do it, to talk to the school with?
Oh, I went out and grabbed a few of the kids in school that I knew swam, and we got together and we went and we just were persistent until they allowed us to have it.
So you organized this little this little group. What's this ability of yours to organize people have to do with your ability to build the #1 Keller Williams brokerage?
I've learned through all of my experience in life that everybody's different, and really trying to figure out what it takes to work around what you need and what you want, and helping people get what they need and what they want is the true way and pathway to success.
Emily?
Terese, how old were you when you started making money?
I was probably around six.
And what were you doing?
Babysitting, odds and ends, teaching swimming lessons, whatever I needed to do.
And in those experiences, what did you learn about yourself?
I learned that people actually looked up and listened to me, which was interesting at such a young age.
And how do you incorporate that in your current role?
I always put people ahead of me and make sure that I'm trying to find ways to raise them up in their business and their career. And sometimes, in this business, it's not meant for everyone. And a lot of people will let someone just flounder because they're independent contractors. But for me, it's about finding what someone's true passion and what their real skills are in life and helping point them in that direction.
How does that make you feel when you're able to help someone achieve that?
Oh my gosh, that's everything. It's about just really rising people up and making them better and seeing people happy. I mean, if there's anything that makes me happy, it's that people around me are happy.
Matthew?
You talk a lot about the persistence that it's taken to accomplish the things in your life and about how you become a leader and help people accomplish what they want. I'm curious, which comes first, the persistence or the leadership?
Oh, that's a good question. I think probably persistence leads to leadership skills. So I would say persistence first, leading to leadership.
Tell me more about that.
Just having that can-do-it attitude and doing whatever it takes to get there teaches you lots of really great skills along the way on, being the first one in and having that determination and that grit to just really do whatever it takes. People start to watch that, and then you grow into this leader without knowing it really even happens.
So your nature is your implicit nature is to lay the tracks for others. I mean, you mentioned you were the oldest of three and, you were taking care of the kids. I mean, at an early age, your nature is to go ahead and organize the kids like you did that swim team, like you're doing this business. What's fascinating to me is you're not the kind of person that stands up front and demands that it gets done your way. It sounds to me like you're really trying to figure out who people are. And with real estate, you figured out what people need to do, and you're trying to figure out how you can help them play to their strengths in order to be successful. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. Our mission and our company is to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, legacies worth giving. And that, that kind of speaks to everything that we're about, which I think makes us different than just about every real estate company out there.
So you understand whether it's football, baseball, or real estate, you understand where people fit on the team, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So even though you may have been a great swimmer, maybe your greatest strength is figuring out who people are and where they fit.
Yeah, I would say that's true. Yes.
Did you help organize kids on the swim team regarding what stroke they ought to be doing?
I did. I'm a little bit of a control freak if you haven't gotten that yet.
I don't know that it's a control freak. It sounds to me like you've really got a wonderful skill. I mean, were you really helping figure out who should be swimming what stroke and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
You have an eye for what people are good at, and some people are just really natural at their movement, and it really is a different skill for each different stroke. And making sure that people are in the right place gives them the best chance of having success. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is putting people in the right places.
Who had that ability, mom or dad?
You know what? I think a little bit of both, but my mom probably more.
What do you mean?
My dad, even though he was the one that got up in the morning and went off to work and he was provided for the family, he was really good at giving us the opportunity to figure out where we belonged and what we should be doing. And he never held us back. It was always, you can do anything, and he recognized the skills that the three of us had. We all have different skills. We're all completely different people.
What's the website address for this organization known as Keller Williams Realty Group?
It's kwrealtygroup.com.
Let me have that one more time.
kwrealtygroup.com.
We've been speaking with Terese Brittingham, broker and owner of Keller Williams Realty Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. Matthew, could you give us a rundown of who else we've had on the air today, please?
Sure, Ken. It's really been a great show this morning. We started off with Murtha, the Greater Philadelphia Area Director of the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. Then we had Christi Seidel, President and CEO of Surrey Services for Seniors. After that, we had Dave Monahan, the CEO of Kleer, and we just wrapped it up with Terese Brittingham, the broker and owner of Keller Williams Realty Group.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane Newmark Knight Frank, Emily Gorka Hanlon, and Matthew Shapiro Obermeyer for giving me a hand structuring the questions, providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today and have a nice day. Bye-bye.